realized I'm only here because I'm from Oceanside, California. I live in a beach town down in San Diego County. I've been blessed with the privilege to grow up in Pacific Ocean in my backyard. Got to go on vacation to some of the most beautiful places in the world. Because of that, I've really developed a sense of obligation to pay it forward and protect my earth that has given back so much to me. And that's really was my driving force that launched me into organizing in college. I gained so much, I got to see so many things so well, I figured, well, I should protect the environment. So I started organizing around food. And I really just felt a deep connection to food. I come from a Pacific Islander family of Samoans. If you know anything about Samoans, you really love to eat. And so that's really been ingrained in me. And I know that really, when we talk about the environment, the food systems needs to change. And so in college, I thought that might be the way that I wanted to make my mark on the climate. And so working with food systems. While I was doing that in college, I started volunteering, and I really just found the value in volunteering, in service, giving your time to expect nothing in return, but just for people who could use a hand. And I really fell in love with that, so much so that I decided to do a year of national service after my time in college. I did an AmeriCorps program called City Year. This took me out to Miami, Florida to do that year. And while out there, in September of 2017, Hurricane Irma was on its way out, and it was a Category 5 hurricane at the time, and it was set to just decimate southern Florida. It was a scary time, and me and my roommates, some of us were from the East Coast, and how this went down, and we thought we were going to wait it out in a hotel room or an apartment, and just wait it out. And so as we were doing preparing for that, we were going around the town trying to find food and water. It lasted a couple of days, because we didn't know how long we were going to be held. We were supposed to be pretty bad. And so in this time, I felt the fear of what it is to prepare, just to prepare for a crisis. And we couldn't even find food and water easily. We had to drive all over the city just to find camp food. And when we finally did find water, of course, the only place it was in the richest city in Miami. There was one crate in the grocery store, and there was one man out front guarding the crate, literally rationing off water for people to store. And I stopped formulating arguments over this. And this was so weird. I really felt like I was in the movies watching this thing go down. It was a really scary time. And finally, we decided to leave and flee the north part of the state because we figured it was selfish to stay down there and risk our lives when we could just be stable. No, so we had to do that. We did that okay. And after this time of service in Miami, before I left, I had launched an idea with a friend to start a business about food, trying to sell, believe it or not, insect talkers and insect ceviche, as well as vegan items, as a way to address the sustainability of our food system and transition us away from meat and other animal products because of the destruction that we have on the planet. And so I figured I'd launch that in Chico. And 2 months after getting here in Chico, the campfire hit. And I was scared in Miami when the hurricane was coming, but I was lucky enough to get away and not have to be around that. But out here in the campfire, I felt a deeper fear that I haven't ever felt before from a climate crisis. And fortunately, my home was okay in prison. I had a lot of friends and co-workers who lost their homes and had to leave the area. I myself had back in Point East Chico was evacuated, and I wasn't sure if I was going to have to leave. Remember the days after we heard how bad the smoke was, I even ended up leaving for the police just trying to find some fresh air. And this really just struck a different note with me. And this time with the hurricane, I realized that me selling cricket tacos on the side of the street, hoping somebody happened to stop by, was not me addressing the climate crisis. It was too slow. That was not enough. 12 years. And after feeling the fear here, I knew I needed to do something more direct. And so that has led me now to organizing, which is where I find myself now on the stage in Varsity and you all. And this is, I feel, where I need to be. And it's also a
Thank you, Steve. Thank you so much for sharing that story. They said they're proud of you. We all are.
Okay, so the UN report that came out recently said that we have maybe 12 years to turn around climate change. Do you think that's realistic, and do you think we can do it as a humans population?
It is a tall order indeed, and I think it's going to take action like we've never seen before. the Green New Deal is really calling for World War II like mobilization, and obviously that's really just focusing heavily on the United States. And as the UN report is calling for, it's 12 years for the world to make these changes. And so it's going to be tough, but I do think that given the state of the movement right now, it's seeming to really gain a lot of momentum. Not only here in the U.S., but as well as across the world with the kind of strikes that are going on, and a lot of folks are speaking up. So, I think we can make real progress to get to the point where we need to. Who knows? But I think we're making the progress, and I think we're gonna do the best that we can, and that's what Sunrise is here to help do.
Right. Early on, the environmental movement was sparked a long time ago by Rachel Carson in her book, and then I think of Bill McKibben as co-organizing with Students350.org. And then since then, there's been a lot of youth movements. And see if you've heard of these people before. There's a Yale dropout named Billy Parrish in 23 started the Energy Action Coalition, and he thinks was the biggest organization of the kind. He said change starts with simple belief in progress. And then Alex Loorix, Loorx, when he was 17, started I Matter movement, and he was galvanized by watching Al Gore's movie An Inconvenient Truth that came out in 2007. And then Andy Lipkus, when he was 18, founded Kids versus Global Warming and Tree People. And then in 2018, Zero Hour was formed by Jamie Margolin, a girl age 16. And then we all have heard a lot about Greta Thunberg, who started the movement when she was 15. And since Zero Hour and Greta, it seems like a lot of the youth movement have been led by young women. So I wanted you to comment on what kind of strategies and tactics do you think that young people are using in these kind of movements that are maybe unique to Generation X and Y perspectives?
Yeah, I mean, for one, I think the obvious kind of avenue that's being used is the social media platforms. And so Sunrise in particular really did a great job of spreading some of the videos that they had. So when they were in Nancy Pelosi's office in DC, and they had to sit in there, and they really amplified that and got it viewed by a lot of folks across the country. And that really was what helped grow Sunrise movement, as well as most recently there's a video that young Sunrisers were visiting Dianne Feinstein in her office down in San Francisco, and that one went viral to a degree, and that did a good job of also bringing more folks in. So really staying active on social media and pushing those things out is a successful tactic that others, especially with Greta Thunberg, her climate strike, she has a whole hashtag like strike or Fridays for Climate, and that hashtag has actually helped push this movement forward, and so that's a really valuable way. Other thing I think is really just the old school tactic. I mean, just this people power is person to person conversation. Sunrise is all about the people power, having these one-on-one conversations and having them with whoever, wherever you can. For us out here in Chico, that's largely on Chico State's campus, as well as Butte College, even on the Inspire School of Arts and Sciences, but really getting in it and doing canvassing, having a table set up and just talking to folks about what the Green New Deal is, or doing class wraps. That was really successful for us. So some of these older tactics, as well as using these social media platforms, are just kind of the ways that I've seen that have been really successful so far, and will certainly continue to be vital moving forward.
What I'm hearing from all kinds of organizations for social change recently is tell the story, tell your story, tell your story, tell your story. Why is that kind of the key tactic or strategy?
Because for one, it really allows people to relate and really kind of empathize with the situations that we find ourselves in. Oftentimes the science and the data get overwhelming, and people kind of check out when they hear these things, and they either don't understand or maybe are skeptical, and so that often can kind of alienate them and push them out of the movement. Whereas telling these stories really just people relate so strong to these stories. It makes them feel for the people who are going through these struggles, and it really is a way to lure them in and kind of turn them into action. And so, that's something that Sunrise in particular has really emphasized, is sharing your stories. And I've seen the success of that. And it also allows the people who share these stories to really, there's power in being vulnerable with these stories. And as you might have seen at the Green New Deal tour stop at the El Rey Theater in Chico, one of our presenters was a student who lost her home in the campfire, and her story was just so powerful. And I think that really resonated with a lot of people and really got them on board with understanding that this climate crisis is not a political issue. It is a human issue, and it is something that everybody's affected by, and that we all ought to be taking action towards. And hearing these stories really brings some more of the skeptical people in.
I want to talk more about tactics and the origins of Sunrise, but first, how did you get involved in all this? You were in Florida at one point.
Yeah. So right before I finished college, I had a business idea with a friend to start a company that would sell insect-based and vegan-based items as a way to address the unsustainability of our food system, as a way to address climate change. And I didn't think I wanted to go into politics. I thought I wanted to make my difference, but from a different avenue. And so we figured we'd launch that in Chico. And so before I could do that, I had committed to a year of national service through Marquardt out in Miami, where I was working in a high school trying to help students get back on track to graduate. And after completing that year, I moved to Chico to launch this company. And when I got here, I realized that wasn't the route that I really wanted to go down. It was, my passions didn't lie there, nor were my skills best set for that. And in realizing that wasn't the way to go, I found myself organizing. I transitioned into organizing, and I landed in what I think is where I should be and what I should be doing. And so when I started organizing, I was with Chico 350, and in the meantime I had heard about Sunrise movement, and I had seen that there wasn't anything out here in Chico, which I thought was an issue. So me and a buddy decided to launch a hub here, and now we're up and going.
What did you major in, and where were you in college?
Yeah, I was a political science major at UC Santa Barbara.
That's where I have my PhD.
Okay.
I miss the beach. Do you?
Me too. Go Gauchos.
And how old are you now?
I'm 24.
So you're kind of between you're still Gen Y.
A millennial. Yeah.
And some people say about your generation, they feel entitled, they're fragile teacups, they're anxious, they had helicopter parents who didn't allow them to cope with challenges. Do you think there's any truth with that, or do you think that's a falsehood?
I myself don't know if I quite believe all that. I do think that there was a type of parenting that we grew up with, the millennials, that was really trying to make everything right and perfect and okay, which as a parent would want to do, and completely understandable. But I think that but I think there was some missteps in that, and not letting us deal with not being the best, and realizing that maybe we can't do quite everything, and maybe they set the expectations too high for us to a degree, and didn't let us feel the losses that we should have had, and dealing with the ups and downs. I think that's a really vital part of life, is really feeling the highs and the lows, and dealing with those. And I think often we were kind of kept away from the lows as much as possible, and that might have been some reason why we feel maybe entitled to, because we hadn't necessarily experienced so many of the lows as maybe other generations. But I really don't. From the people I've interacted with, from going on, really from high school up till now, are folks that are hardworking, are dedicated to really improving whatever part of the world they're working on. Maybe it's not political, maybe it's in law enforcement, maybe it's in businesses that are trying to help develop companies that are doing good work. I really come across people that work hard and want good for the world and want to give back and really want to make a difference. So I don't know where these folks are, these entitled people really are, because I haven't found too many of them myself. But so I don't know how much I agree with that.
Okay, that's interesting. One thing that does seem to be factual is there's growing rates of anxiety and depression among teens, especially girls.
Yes.
And some people say, well, it's because there's so much focus on social media that if you don't get the likes, or you look on Instagram and there's a party and you're not invited. But that seems kind of superficial. What would you attribute this increasing anxiety?
You know, I think social media is a part of it. I think that we spend so much time, you know, social media really is often very superficial, very, very fake. I mean, people, we're faking our happiness on social media. We'll put up these pictures like we're having a great time, and, you know, it's a way of validate. It's our form of validation now, is to get these likes, getting these reposts, getting these comments. And, you know, and we, at the same time, we're scrolling through and seeing all these beautiful places and beautiful people doing incredible things, and everybody's looking like they're perfect. And then we start wondering what we're doing and how we compare to them. And that really does have a psychological toll. But even aside from that, I think we've just really lost, I don't know if we ever had them, but the values in our society, I think, are very poor. I think the things that we think we should be striving for are not recipes for a good life. I think we're after, you know, the wrong things largely. And we lost our sense of service, and lost our sense of community, and lost our sense of, you know, embracing who we are for what we are and finding our own path. I think there's so many people that largely the norm is you need to go to college, you need to find a partner, you need to make this much money,
Pay off your student loans.
Yes, I have student loans, and so many of these expectations that have been passed on to us, and we feel we need to live up to, but they're not even necessarily what we want. I think this, you know, my generation and the even younger generations are realizing that there's a good life entails a lot different things than what our parents' generation's good lives entailed. And so there's trying to kind of follow that path, but wanting to do something different, but feeling like an outsider for trying to do that is a weird thing, is coupled with all this social media and everything online telling us what we should look like and what we should buy. And it, you know, it's, it can make it tough. And even the college thing is a big thing. I think a lot of people are realizing that college isn't the route that's best for them, but there is still that norm that you should go to college, and if you don't, that you're somewhat of a failure. And a lot of people are feeling that pressure, but then don't know what avenue to go down. And yeah, there's a lot of different things.
Why is it, do you think, that boys aren't as anxious? Is it just because they don't show it or talk about it, or is they're not as influenced by what other people think?
You know, I would venture to guess that they're just as anxious, if not more. Maybe it's just not as vocally.
They don't go see counselors.
Maybe they're not as expressive about it, but I would imagine that they're just as much, if not more. I mean, I think there's certain pressures on boys and men to be certain ways as well, but then again, there's that, you know, that mentality that men are strong and don't like let their emotions show and can't, you know, need to be just put together. And but I think behind that wall, there's definitely some anxiety and some depression going on. I mean, I myself was in a pretty low state in a couple years in high school, and I have plenty of friends and even people today who are just really going with that mental roller coaster that we find ourselves on. And I would imagine that it's just as prevalent with boys as girls.
What got you out of that roller coaster down?
You know, realizing that, well, for one, starting to push myself. I was in a place where I was feeling I was just kind of content. I was not, for one, contributing much more than what I felt. I had to go to school, and keep my grades up. And I wasn't really connected to anything necessarily. I didn't feel like I was contributing towards much, and I didn't feel like I was pushing myself very much. I was just kind of in this level of content and just going by. And so I started to volunteer on campus, and this was actually in college, and then so I started to get more involved and just feel a connection to the university, feel a connection to the people I was with, and feeling a reason, like I had a reason to be there. And that really helped. And not only giving me just incredible opportunities to do good work, but also just meet incredible people and really just maximize my time at the university.
And feel like you were doing something significant and meaningful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why do you think there are more young women leading climate change in Europe and the US? Climate change activism.
Right. Yeah, I don't know why. That's an interesting question and an interesting point they bring up with all these young female leaders. I don't know if I have a good answer for you. I couldn't, why? I mean, perhaps they are, you know, I think in general for social work and nonprofit work and those kind of areas, they are predominantly filled by women. Women generally fill those roles. And so this type of work, though, is in that realm, I would say. And so it would, you know, that could be a reason why I know it's generally more women in these fields. But why they're leading these movements in particular, I really couldn't tell you why. I'm not too sure.
You know, there seems to be, because of the women's movement, more pressure on young women to do everything. You need to look good, you need to get good grades, you need to get a major that's going to get you into career. And so maybe they get pushed harder to prove themselves and take action.
I think that could definitely be the case. I think there was a just unhealthy amount of pressure and expectation set on women, and this could be an avenue to say, drop all these. I'm gonna channel all that energy and all that effort into something that matters most, which really is addressing this climate crisis. I mean,
because in Sunrise, the kind of the most vocal leaders are the women. Would you say of the national?
Sure. I mean, our executive director Varshini Prakash, she's a strong woman, and we got to see her on stage at the El Rey, and that was incredible.
Yeah. I put a videotape of excerpts of her on the YouTube channel. Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So some people in the climate change movement, who are especially young people, say they were influenced by the Occupy Wall Street movement against the domination of the 1%, but they feel like the Occupy Wall Street was kind of a failure because it changed the discussion, but it kind of faded out. So people started talking about inequality. So what do you think people have learned from Occupy Wall Street, what to do differently?
I think, well, they learned that we can spark conversations and bring things to the national discussion, which we've started to do already with the Green New Deal. I think we need to keep this issue on the forefront of people's minds and not let it fall, because everybody's competing for media time. There's so many issues. We need to realize that we need to keep this fresh, and we need to keep this in discussion at all times. And so that's what we're trying to be at Sunrise in particular. Is we're going to be at the two national debates, Democratic primaries in June and July. We'll be there to keeping this fresh. We're even out here locally. We're thinking of ways that we can have local actions weekly, just to keep this issue on people's mind. Like maybe going to the farmers market, we've had some success marching through there. And another thing is coalition building. I think this is important because this issue really it does address everybody. It touches every issue, it touches every community. And so the necessity of building a coalition across sectors, across industries, across communities is what's going to allow us to make it a movement that stays and is sustainable. And that's really what gets me excited about this work, is being able to reach across to all these other groups who normally wouldn't find themselves in the environmental discussion or debate in the past, might not have seen how they fit in. But now we're realizing that with this 12-year mark to make the difference, we need everybody on board. And
that's like farmers and
racial justice groups, religious groups, all these groups that might never necessarily were thought of themselves as environmentalists, but helping them realize that, for one, the issue affects all of us, and that the vulnerable communities are the ones that get hit first and hardest, so they need to be at the table. But also the fact that this Green New Deal it will bring prosperity to everybody, and it's kind of a rising tide lifts all ships. I mean, it is not just an environmental package, it's an economic stimulus package. It's also a way to address the social inequities that we see. And so everybody has something to gain from this vision being advanced. And so that wide coalition is really going to keep this, I think, moving forward and a discussion across the country in different various groups.
I think the people who started Sunrise came out of university divestiture campaigns to have university funds get out of fossil fuel investing. How did it move to be local campus divestitures to a really big nationwide Canadian movement?
The divest or just the general
How-
Green New Deal movement? Or?
My question is that the people who started Sunrise, many of them worked
Sure.
on university
Sure.
campaigns, but they were kind of local and scattered. So what was the transition to making it a big national movement? I think the Sierra Club helped with some funding,
Yeah,
office space.
Yes, exactly. The national team has used some Sierra Club space in Washington D.C. It really, with the rise of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Rashida Tlaib and a couple other the young Congress members, Sunrise helped get them elected. They really worked on their campaign to get them to national office where they could have the voice to talk about this issue, the Green New Deal. And really once, especially once the resolution was introduced in early February, that really set it off, I think, to another level. So the resolution, House Resolution 109, introduced by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and then Senator Ed Markey introduced a similar resolution into Congress, both calling,
Senate.
in the Senate, and both calling on the federal government to create a Green New Deal, and that was what gave it the kind of firm grounding to really advocate from. So having those national spokespeople was big, even though this idea has been floating around in the past a little bit in different groups, but yeah, I think that was like the main thing that really set it off to be a national debate.
So who thought of the Green New Deal concept? Was that a Sunrise program?
No, it sounds like even somebody like Van Jones, who was in Obama's administration, was talking about a Green New Deal idea.
Oh yeah, jobs. He was big on the green jobs.
Yeah, and so he would kind of, and I think even farther back, people have been using that kind of term, but I think as of what we're seeing now, it wasn't actually Sunrise in particular. I really think it started, at least from what I know, is just Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Senator Ed Markey, and that Green New Deal resolution, that is where we were in discussion. They were kind of those two were kind of in discussion with Sunrise as well as many other groups when they were formulating that resolution. So Sunrise was at the table for that, but it didn't come from Sunrise. It was I guess a combination of groups with those representatives who then launched that official term through that resolution.
So the strategy is to get everyone who's running for office to sign a pledge that they support the Green New Deal. And how many politicians have signed so far?
So the official pledge, actually, it was the first one that Audrey Denny just recently on April 27th at the
She's running for Congress against a Trumpite.
Yep, against a climate denier, and so we gotta get her in there. So she was the first one to sign the pledge itself. There was a lot of members who signed on to the resolution that was introduced into Congress, over 100 at this point. But the pledge that Sunrise has put out, from what I'm aware of, Audrey was the first one. So we'll be getting a lot
That's
more.
what they said.
Yeah, we'll be getting a lot more between now and the election. But yeah, Audrey was the first one, which was really exciting to be a part of.
So when you thought about, I should start a hub, what kind of support did the national group give you to do that?
So they have, there's a national hub coach, or there's a hub coordinator coach that they pair you with when you get started. They also have monthly or even bi-weekly hub coordinator calls, kind of check in and reflect and talk about strategizing. And then I've also gotten, because of the tour stop, I've got some support from the national team in preparation for that tour stop. But that was a little bit extra given this special event. But primarily, there's hub coaches that they have and the bi-weekly calls. And you can always reach out for more support. But largely it was just going out and doing it and experimenting. But I knew what I needed to do for the most part. I needed to recruit people, which I was fortunate I didn't need too much support from National to do that, and got some great allies out here in Chico. We got Dr. Mark Steeman, who's our advisor now, so he's huge for us in plugging us in. And the connections I've made through Chico 350, they've been able to connect me with good folks. So really, most of the support has actually come from here locally on the ground, which is ideal almost in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
And then get the advising from National as well. But
so how many hubs are there now, and how many people are active in the Chico hub?
so I believe there's I want to say 209 hubs, but I'm almost positive. I'm pretty sure it's over 200 hubs at this point across the country, which is pretty cool to think about. Over 2 years, they've grown to that.
Yeah.
And in the Chico hub, anywhere from 8 to 10 active members. Last night we had 16 at our meeting, which was great given it was dead week for students. It's the kind of preparation for finals, so I didn't expect a good turnout. But yeah, we've grown to be a strong but mighty hub. And some of our recent actions, we had about 20 people marching at the Pioneer Day Parade on Saturday. We had 25 or so volunteers at the tour stop event. So we're getting some good numbers coming out to these things. And we're just going to get even stronger come next year once the school year starts. And even throughout the summer, we're going to continue to build, hopefully connect more with the high school students and some of the Butte College students, and as well as the community members, and keep that growing. And then once students come back for the fall at Chico State, continue to grow and then start our next move.
Well, the presidential campaign will take up a lot of focus.
Mm-hmm. And voter registration that'll be a good time to start doing voter registration.
How do you feed yourself doing all this organizing? Do you have a job?
Well, I did. I was working at Chico Vela Cycling Club, and the Wildflower conflicted with the Green New Deal tour stop, and I wasn't able to do both, and I chose the Green New Deal tour stop because that's what matters most, and I couldn't miss that, so I unfortunately had to resign from that other job, and now I'm unemployed currently, but I'm going to be starting a Sunrise Fellowship in June. So that'll support me. And
they're hiring different jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to apply for any of those, or would you have to move?
So the fellowship is a stipend position. So it's a paid position with Sunrise. So I'll be doing that from June till at least September, potentially until December, and then after that, I've been in discussion with Audrey Denny's campaign, and it looks like I might be able to help out there.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
When you talk to the coaches, do they emphasize tell the story? What are their strategies that they really want you to use?
Well, telling the story indeed is important. And like the strategies are kind of depend on what we're trying to get accomplished, but emphasizing just the necessity of having these conversations, though they may seem just trivial and ineffective, but that is the base, the base work and the groundwork that needs to be done in order for this to be successful. Just continuing to have as many conversations with people as we can. Now they don't necessarily always have to be just a one-on-one with a stranger in the street, but small class talks, getting to other community meetings and other community groups and having the discussions there. Getting to officing and down with the elected officials, which I've been able to do with the vice mayor and the mayor, and talking about their what they think we could do moving forward. So talking to as many different people is a big strategy right now because it is still new to a lot of people. A lot of people still aren't familiar with it, and so are unsure what it is and why it is beneficial for them. So those things are really pushed as well.
It used to be the focus was on TV ads, media, radio ads, spending a lot of money on those. And it seems like it's shifted maybe since Bernie Sanders' campaign to talk to people, knock on doors,
the grassroots,
meet and greet.
Yeah, the grassroots action. Yeah, I think for one, we know that these in-person conversations are the most effective ways to get people to understand things and to really commit to things and get involved and take some action. And we get so many commercials that I think people almost tuned out to a lot of the ads these days. And hearing, it's harder to relate to a commercial sometimes. And maybe people can just kind of misinterpret what's being said, and they're a little more skeptical to somebody on a screen than in person. That's really at the core of what a democracy is. It needs to be built on this grassroots level of support and action and conversation and formulation of solutions. And so emphasizing that is really important for the health of our democracy.
It also seems to me that statistics like the recent one that about 1 million species of insects and animals are going extinct, that's really powerful. Yeah. So that kind of statistical, factual information has to get out there too.
Absolutely.
When you did the big rally for the Chico hub and the national tour, it was interesting to me because you use videos of people's stories, actual people's stories, singing because the movement wants to be happy, joyous, audience talking to each other in small groups, having a band afterwards, the whole audience singing together. So it's a very mixed media, so it keeps people's attention, and that seems to me kind of a Gen Y, Gen Z approach. We keep it moving.
Yeah.
We have all different kinds of media. We don't just listen to someone talk.
Right. Yeah, this is vital. I mean, we know that our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter, and people tune out of talks even after 5 minutes. Of somebody talking, they could start to lose focus, and so that was a beautiful execution of how to keep people engaged and how to keep it fresh and keep it interesting and keep it fun.
Yeah.
So I've taken a lot away from that. So planning future events, I'm going to take one out of that playbook because people mentioned that it was really good at keeping people engaged, and that's what we're going to do, especially in an event that's talking about an issue as serious as this, about work that's so as serious as this. To try to make it fun and interactive is so important, and they did a great job of that. And I think it was pretty effective.
Oh, yeah. Have you talked to any climate deniers like in Wally Herger's congressional office? And do they make a case for it that humans aren't changing the climate?
Even my mom is not quite on board. She voted for Trump. She's quite skeptical of things. It makes it interesting going home. I haven't really heard a strong case against it. I don't at this point. I don't know. There is no strong case against it. We know that we are significantly contributing to the warming that we're seeing.
The people that I know that are climate change deniers say, "Oh yeah, climate always goes up and down. It always changes, but there's no evidence that humans are causing it." Which we know most scientists.
Our own government, the 4th annual national assessment came out in November of the last year. The IPCC report. I don't know what else to tell you. We know the science is there. And the funny thing, too, is, there's a great political cartoon that someone gave me recently. It's there's people at a conference, a climate conference, and it's on the board. It's like, good jobs, like clean energy, healthy people, clean water. And somebody in the audience is like, what if it's all a hoax and we have all these things for nothing? Or what if it's all a hoax and we get all these things anyway? Like, what is there to lose by going for these things? So even if it were somehow not an actual issue, but we got all these things, we're still better off. So there's really no, I don't see where.
Is your mom going to vote for Trump again, do you think?
Probably.
What does she like about him? I so rarely talk to anybody who doesn't realize he's a psychopathic, narcissistic liar.
For one, she's somebody who just will stay the party line for whatever. She's so loyal to the party, which I'm not too sure why. She also really thinks that he's just doing a great job for our economy, and she thinks that he's really going to bring this economic prosperity back. She's very much America first and protecting America, and she's from a white conservative military family and never really got perspective in the world. She never really left her hometown, and doesn't quite have just a worldly understanding or empathy for certain people, honestly. And a lot of I'm not sure completely why, but I know that she's loyal to the party and just believes that he's gonna bring the economic prosperity or continue to bring that.
And it's interesting that evangelical conservatives don't care about his lack of morality.
I know. It doesn't make sense to me.
What? He lies 15 times a day? Doesn't that mean anything to you?
Right. I wonder the same thing. But
one of your tactics is to work with city governments to have a program called Climate Mobilization, Declaration of Climate Emergency Resolutions, and you got Chico to pass that. What is that?
So it was actually Chico 350 brought that to the council, and then we helped kind of build the pressure behind that. And so it was a resolution declaring a climate emergency, which was passed at the Chico City Council on April 2nd. And this really is just a resolution stating that we are facing a climate crisis. So that whereas the IPCC states, the fourth annual national assessment states, we are in this crisis, and therefore we will, and this sets goals that the city should strive for it, and things that it's kind of to a degree like a local Green New Deal resolution. It's based off that language that was the Green New Deal resolution. It's kind of based off that, so it's really like a localized version of that. And the Climate Mobilization is an organization that's helped different cities throughout California get those passed. So it's helped formulate the language in these resolutions and help kind of guide them towards getting it passed. And so numerous cities now throughout California have passed these, which I think is a necessary first step. Though yes, it's just a resolution. It does set the vision forward, and it does state, it's an official statement from the city saying we are in a crisis. We are going to address this. So we can't work on climate change unless we acknowledge that it's real and it's happening. So that's where we've done that, which is great. And now, actually, just at this Tuesday, we passed the city council voted to create a climate action commission. So that is which is a vital step forward, because this resolution is important, but the commission is going to be the people who actually write the policies to get us towards these goals.
So the resolution doesn't commit to any specific, we're going to make green jobs, or
it calls for them in it. It says it isn't. No, it's more of a recommendation of what the city should do.
A goal.
And the goal, it's just goals that we have, but it doesn't have deadlines or anything. And it's but the commission getting formed, which was huge for us. That is going to be the commission that sets these goals and sets the policies to hit those goals, and it's going to be staffed by somebody from the city. They're going to have a consultant in there, and it's going to have 7 different commissioners representing various groups from the city. So we're getting a really inclusive representation.
and it will include 350 and or Sunrise.
We're not sure. I think it's gonna. It may, if everyone may, include a member from environmental, like civil society.
It should.
I think it should indeed. I think we'll have somebody from the indigenous community, somebody from low-income communities, a student voice, potentially one of the civic groups out here, environmental groups, but. It's gonna be, and if we're not on the table, we'll be at the meetings, and we'll be pressuring the people who are on the commission to make sure that they're kind of in line with what we think we need. So we'll have a voice there regardless. Hopefully, it's at the table.
So if you were on the commission, what would you push for specifically? More solar power, wind power, green jobs? What would be the specifics?
For me, I would start with food. I think food is what we have a lot of control over. Both for just citizens, I think we can make a large impact on food. But at the city level, I mean, we are a farming community, and our farmers are struggling. And what we know that there's proven tactics that are out there. That Audrey Denny is speaking a lot about this. There's things that we can do to help our farmers now. There's things, and I think community resiliency begins with food. If we can't produce our own food, we're in deep trouble. So I think I would focus heavily on that. Promoting more for even front and backyard gardens, making the farmers market, potentially expanding. We'll also we're to secure a farmers market again in a good spot. We just have to vote on the location of the farmers market in 2020, and so just making sure that access to that is steady. More food is being produced in the community, and then supporting our farmers, that's a big thing, as well as community choice aggregation. That's something that's being looked at right now. Community choice aggregation. It's a program where the city and the county would be purchasing or generating electricity for us rather than PG&E. And so that what's nice there is that it allows us to potentially then be generating. That would be our path to renewable energy, because what we would need then is a solar farm to be built, which is a promising venture for anybody that wants to, for some of the more well-off folks out here. They could be a real business opportunity to build a solar farm. We could buy direct from that solar farm that was produced locally and then send it right to us, power our residents and our businesses. We would use PG&E lines to transfer the energy, but the city would be responsible for purchasing, generating, and they would be held accountable because they would be elected by us. So we'd have more of a direct say in what's going on there, and also we'd be able to save. I mean, the county's already done the numbers. They would save people about 2%. Annually their energy bills, and I would recommend checking out the Butte County Power website about that, because there's proven benefits, and there's already 18 CCAs in California, and so I would push to have Butte County be the 19th, and it's already in discussion, but we need to speed that process along.
What are some of the cities that are on board already?
Oh man, I don't even know any that come to mind right now. But I do know that they're listed on.
But they're small cities, not just like LA, San Francisco.
Yeah, I think there's some smaller ones in there, but
We can look.
yes, they are on the Butte County Power website. That mentions that.
That's good. Well, we can look up. Yeah. So we would have green power, green jobs,
yes,
sustainable organic food growing. Mm-hmm. What else? What about water? Like in Paradise, the water supply is so contaminated. Is water an issue?
I would, indeed. I'm not too well versed on how we can address that. So I mean, it would be a priority indeed. But at the moment, I wouldn't be able to speak too much on that process. But in terms of even another avenue, I mean, transportation, I know is something that's the county has already invested in some electric buses. So the transportation is handled at the county level. Mm. So I guess that as a commission in Chico, it might be a little bit hard to make that change there, but we could certainly advocate for that. And we have some really just promising and friendly commissioners or supervisors at the board level, at the county level, that we could work with and speed up that process and getting more. Because right now, I can't remember, they got a couple of electric buses. And we need to increase the number of buses that we're getting there, and push for just more transportation solutions, better public transit, more electric vehicles on the road. That's something that I would also advocate for.
How many charging stations are there? Are there charging stations for electric vehicles in Chico?
Not that I know of.
People just have to use their own home.
I believe so.
In their garage or whatever. So that might be another thing.
Indeed.
What about some communities have bikes that you can just pick up anywhere and leave where you want, kind of rent?
Right. Those are in the big cities for sure, and we don't have them out here, but that would be a great alternative. And that's what I'm getting into the biking. The bike infrastructure in the city isn't super. Isn't too great. I think we could do a lot to kind of make Chico a more bike-friendly city and encourage the biking, one of which would be having those kind of options, but also just the bike infrastructure and more bike lanes and smoother biking paths and things was a big push as well. And that'd be something that we could actually do some work on here within the city without the county support. I think that bike option would be great.
Anything else that you think could be done on a city level? I'm thinking of like Amsterdam. It's such a model city in terms of bike trails and people of all ages riding bikes and other things that you would push for climate help.
Yeah. I know people have talked about making downtown a bike, and it's a stretch, but making downtown solely a bike and walking area,
like Broadway in Maine.
Yeah. I think that could be a cool thing, but that's not quite it's a stretch, but I think that could be fun and a good option to encourage more biking. But I think to a smaller. Maybe a slower impact, but put more climate education, and I think climate education in our K through 12 schools, specifically high school, and that's more not necessarily at the city level. That'd be something to do with the school board, but I think incorporating more climate education is really important, and that would be something that I would certainly push for, or at least if not, in the curriculum, then organizations that can partner with schools to provide this, it would be huge. And then, I think the education is really, really important.
It would be great to have solar panels on every school, because usually there's plenty of sun on school buildings.
Yeah, there's a lot of solar panels. Yes, and there's a lot of space around that could use solar, and a lot of our businesses and any city buildings that are, so I guess within that city scope, and any city buildings that could have solar, I would push for those to be implemented there.
Donald Trump's criticism of wind is it's too noisy.
Well, that is
I don't see wind Is it because we don't have enough wind in this area?
No, I don't think that's the case. There's certainly wind, and the noise isn't an issue. For one, it's the political will for a lot of this if there's not enough pressure on our politicians to act to make these solutions, they won't do it because it does cost a lot of the time and energy and resources. So, that's where we're so vital. We need to go to the state assemblies, council meetings, go to the county supervisors, go to Audrey Denny and our state elected officials and demand that we push forward this vision, which entails more renewable energy.
I wish you'd go to Herger's office, make an appointment. I'll bring my camera and ask them about their position on climate change.
That would be wonderful. That'd be really cool.
Let's do it.
Yeah, and we need to document these conversations.
Yeah.
And that's how things get. We gotta get them online, get them going viral, get people seeing where politicians are and getting them furious to act.
And you set up the appointment. We want to talk about climate change, your policy, and we'll videotape it. And if they say no, then that would be a campaign for plus for Audrey Denny.
Yeah.
If they won't even talk about
Right.
it. But there must be one lowly staff person who would.
Yeah, I imagine that. Yes, because actually I know LaMalfa was actually on Action News Now. They had Aaron Har and somebody they do an interview series through Action News Now, and they got him on to come on to the station, which I was really surprised about. And so it wasn't specifically about climate. It was kind of more broad discussion, but he's definitely willing to step into the territory of the other side, if you may. So it's not easy to get him there, but you can do that.
Well, I think even a staffer
Yeah,
would be fine.
sure.
I mean, it wouldn't be as good, but what did he say? He said, "Oh yeah, climate changes, ha ha ha."
No, yeah, he wrote after the Green New Deal came out. He and a bunch of other congressional members came out with their statements against it, just going to completely discrediting it.
On what basis? Do you remember?
They were just I don't know. I don't remember where. I wish I could find. I don't know where it is, but it was a couple of members who just in response to the resolution. They just released it as I don't know what their group, or maybe it was part of the. I think it's part of the committee that he sits on. I can't remember which one, but it was like members from that committee were all coming out, giving their 2 cents on the resolution, and it was just. It was frustrating to read.
Yeah, be interesting to see what their thinking was.
Yeah.
Of all the 22 Democratic presidential candidates, who do you think has the best stance on the environment? Maybe the Washington governor.
Yeah, Jay Inslee. Yeah, and solar running on climate change, which is I think it's great that he's pushing. He at the very least. He's keeping the discussion focused on climate. He's keeping it at the top of the discussion, which is huge. His whole kind of career has been based off that, which is wonderful. And that's the 100 plan that he just came out with, which is like 100% renewable, 100% new, 100% of the cars that come out are electric, and what's the other 100? I can't remember the third, but that was a pretty cool thing. I mean, Bernie really has been pushing for these Green New Deal ideals for a long time now, and really even his last election was kind of he was already talking about these things. So I would say he's got him, and he'd be up there from the person I believe who actually will do something about it and actually cares about it. I think a lot of the candidates have added the Green Deal to the campaign. I'm not sure how much they're actually serious about it, more so than just using it as a way to bring in some more supporters.
To me, it's like the bottom line. Hello,
Yeah.
if our environment is polluted, nothing is as important as
Right.
that. It just seems like a no-brainer.
It is the most important issue. I mean, everything else is secondary if we don't have a plan to live on. But I think something like Bernie, obviously Jay Inslee, are probably at the top of the list of actually caring and wanting to do something about it.
What about Elizabeth Warren?
I like Elizabeth Warren. I think I would put her there as well. I think she doesn't get the kind of, I don't know, for some reason she doesn't get the talk. Like she doesn't have the appeal that some of the other candidates have. So I feel like she kind of is getting drowned out in this crowded debate. But she's up there as well as somebody I actually believe. And I just as an overall candidate, I like her.
What I like is she's thinking about policies,
Yeah.
not just slogans,
Right.
or
Yeah, right.
she comes up with specific plans.
Mm-hmm.
So the Sunrise thrust is going to be getting Green New Deal passed by electing people who would be supportive
Yeah.
of it, and a president
Yeah.
who would be supportive of it. What happens after November 2020?
Well, even when they get into office, they're still going to need to be pressured to make sure that they follow up on the things that they committed to and what they said they were going to do. So there's going to be a lot of maintaining that pressure until, and then once that, it's going to be drafts, there's going to be a long process of getting agreement. So, being as much as possible at the table, or at least pressuring these politicians and giving recommendations of things. So keeping the pressure on them. Just because they got elected doesn't mean we've won. And so really pushing them to get this law passed, or a law passed as soon as possible, is going to be huge. But I haven't talked too much to Sunrise folks about what that's going to look like after 2020. It's up until
That's one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Has Sunrise worked at all with Never Again Parkland students who are really brilliant strategists in terms of gun control?
I'm not sure if they have. They mentioned, they've referenced Parkland a couple times in planning things that I saw. So I'm not sure. I would venture to guess that they've been in touch the national level, but I'm not familiar. I'm not sure exactly.
It would really be neat to have like one really strong coalition of young people's movements like Sunrise and Parkland and Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Can you think of any other areas that are youth-led?
Right.
Gun control, environment, Black Lives Matter. Immigrant rights. Rights for Hispanic
I'm trying to think of
speaking
groups.
people.
Yeah, totally. I don't know any prominent groups from these areas, other issue areas that come to mind right now.
Young feminists who don't seem to be real noisy at this point.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar, but that would absolutely be a wonderful coalition.
Yeah.
You
should do it.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do out here. At least, at least that's what we're doing we're building.
At least have a national conference every year where people share strategies and tactics and goals and how they can support each other.
Mm-hmm. I'd love to make something like that happen. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like people to know about Sunrise, the Chico Hub, what we can do to combat climate change? It's really hard in an era when we have a president who's a climate change denier, and where it's spreading, like the new president of Brazil is a climate change denier. It's like, please, people, this is 2019.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I would just advise, or just, really recommend that folks seek out a group in your area, whether it's Sunrise or it's 350.org or, Sierra Club, but, at least locally in Butte County, or at least in Chico in particular, Chico 350 and Sunrise are the two groups that if you're wanting to work on climate change and really make an impact here, those are the two groups you get involved with.
And that's anywhere in the nation.
Yeah, those groups are really large. All of 350s international. So there's if there's not a 350 or a Sunrise group in your area,
start one.
Yeah, basically. Because I'd be surprised if there wasn't one close to you. Because those two are a little bit more action focused. At the national level, Sierra Club is kind of calling for some good things, but local, that'd be another group as well. They're really trying to transition. They're really on the Green New Deal vision. They're really pushing that. And they're trying to kind of create a new look for themselves. They're kind of rebranding and trying to get a little bit more with the current movement. So that could be another group as well.
Yeah, at the national convention, you could have Greta Thunberg be your keynote speaker.
Mm-hmm. No, I'd love to. That'd be great. She's awesome.
She is so awesome, and it's so interesting that she's on the autism spectrum, and she says it helps her see things in a way where she sees the truth. Yeah. Which is really interesting.
Yeah, and she speaks so well. She's just
and it's her second language, or third or fourth, or whatever it is in Sweden.
It's inspiring.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.